Good morning, Dr. Kalala.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Given this commission, we should all say good morning in different languages.
That's a good idea.
Buenos dias.
Yeah. Bonjour tout le monde.
Habari za asubuhi.
I like it. Dobro jutro.
Are you unmuted?
Good morning. Can you all hear me? Thank you.
Isabel, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody's unmuted except Dr. Kalala, I think.
Okay. I don't know if we should start now or wait a few minutes again for more people to join.
I'm a believer if a meeting starts at 10, we start at 10.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what the others feel like. There is a grace period, I guess.
Well, in that case, let's start then. Can you first do a roll call to see how many commissioners are present, just in case we have some business to vote on? Good morning, Marlene.
Oh, good morning, Dr. Kalala.
How many commissioners are present so that we can know if we have a quorum or not?
I'm Dr. Kalala, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I'm counting quorum.
Okay.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Kalala. This is Kezar Mohuwala, Commissioner. I'm also there.
Yes. Sorry that I couldn't contact you during the week. My week was very.
No problem. I understand. No problem. We'll definitely connect after Thanksgiving if possible.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
wife tested positive for COVID, and everything was just.
Oh,
Uh,
our best wishes for a fast recovery and good health.
Thank you.
Is Fabrizio Tirelli. I'm here. One of the news.
So, Isabel, do you know if we have reached a quorum?
Yes, we have. We have more than 13. I'm still counting because they're still coming in. But
Okay.
we have reached quorum, yes.
Okay. Are there any guests who need to be introduced?
We do have a couple.
Okay.
Julie Brock, Maria Church.
Okay, I'll ask them to introduce themselves, unless you want to introduce them, Isabel.
If please have if they would introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maria Church. I work with the Division of Emergency Management for LFUCG. And if I could be of assistance in conveying information to the division, I'd be, that's what my role here is.
And I'm Julie Brock. I'm a returning student at University of Kentucky in Russian Studies. I'm just interested in all things international, so I was glad to be able to join in.
You are all welcome to this commission, and we appreciate you being here. Are there any addition to the agenda before we move to approve it? The agenda was sent out about 3 days ago. I don't know if everybody got a chance to read it. Are there any additions?
I would make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second
Anyone?
that.
Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda as the way it is presented right now, just say yes.
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 And those
Yes.
those opposed. Okay, the agenda is approved as it is presented. Yes, Bezo.
No, I'll just raise my hand to approve.
Okay.
Trying to take it.
Let's also look at the minutes of the August the 20th meeting. I didn't change it to those minutes. They were also sent out about 3 days ago for review. Are there any amendments or changes?
Doesn't seem like it.
If not, I would move that we approve the minutes of the August 20th meeting.
I second.
Yes. Okay.
Excuse me, could people that are moving, making motions and seconding, would you call out your names, please?
That was Marilyn Isabel making the motion.
Thank
And,
you, Marilyn.
And I'm Basil. I seconded.
Thank you.
All in favor of approving the minutes without any changes or amendments, just say yes.
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 Okay. Anyone opposed? So the minutes are approved. Let's move to Commission Chair and news and reports. Marlene, do you have anything to say or report?
Well, we submitted a written report, which maybe I would hope, Isabel, maybe we could just distribute that to all the commissioners, because I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that, but I will mention a couple of things that I think are especially important for people generally. We did have a committee meeting on November the 1st, and our committee discussed changes in immigration practice and policy that we've seen during the last quarter. And those changes are reflected in the written report, but I'd call to your attention a few changes that I think are significant. A new policy on work site enforcement. The Biden administration has made it clear that they do not intend to conduct workplace raids. They instead are going to focus on enforcing the law against employers who are really victimizing immigrant employees. So it's a real shift in the focus of enforcement with respect to employment. A second change, and something that we're dealing with in the Lexington area and will be for the rest of this fiscal year, is the Afghan Placement Assistance Program, the APA program. Kentucky Refugee Ministries has agreed to accept up to 125 Afghans into our area. My understanding is at this point in time, there are 5 families who have arrived. The arrivals have different types of status. So it's going to be necessary for the people that work with them to completely understand exactly on what basis they came in, because that'll affect their right to work. It'll affect what kind of process they're going to have to go through once they're here. And also, with respect to Kentucky Refugee Ministries, these families have 2 possible situations. Some of them come in as sponsored families. That means there is a church or other organization that's taken responsibility for that family and will assist financially and socially to help that family adjust to their resettlement. But some are coming in as unsponsored, which means they do not have that kind of support to back them up. So if any of you know of any groups that would like to sponsor an Afghan family, please contact Kentucky Refugee Ministries. In fact, there is a new initiative called the Sponsor Circle Program, which allows any group of 5 American citizens to work together to sponsor an Afghan family. So even if you're not a part of a formal organization, it's still possible to help. So you really might want to look into that program. It's a program of the U.S. State Department. It's called the Sponsor Circle Program. There were changes in enforcement of immigration law in protected areas. Now, this administration has clarified where ICE and Border Patrol are not supposed to arrest immigrants. So it gives a pretty exhaustive list of places they're not supposed to go to enforce immigration law. And it has, I think will make it much easier for people helping immigrants to understand what can happen in different circumstances. The only area not addressed by that memo was courthouses. And that's been a problem for several years, because if an immigrant is involved in any type of litigation where they need to appear at the courthouse, it had become fairly common for ICE to know that and be present at the courthouse to arrest them. That policy hasn't changed. So that is still an area of real sensitivity for enforcement. I'll just say that travel regulations have changed, and I'm sure a lot of you have been reading about that in the paper. Travel is much easier now. There are fewer restrictions on it, and there are fewer bars to it. Also, to let you know that the CDC's moratorium on evictions has expired, so no one is protected from being evicted for non-payment of rent. We're not sure yet what impact that has on immigrants in our community, but it certainly is a concern for all of us. I think those are the highlights of our report. If anyone has a question, I'd be glad to try to respond to it.
Marilyn, I have a question. I did call Kentucky Refugee Ministries, left a message for Mary Cobb, left a message for the caseworker who's taking care of the Afghans, and nobody answered me back. My question is, when you and I went and we saw that lady who is here without her husband and children, I am trying to get the Muslim community to help, but I'm trying to understand the full story, and unfortunately, I cannot reach Kentucky Refugee Ministries. My question is, does she have any contact? She was separated with her husband and 5 children in Afghanistan when they were being evacuated. My question is, does she have any contact with her husband and 5 children in Afghanistan by phone or no?
Marilyn, do you want me to try to answer that?
Sure.
First of all, I've had the exact same experience with KRM, which I'm dismayed by. I've left several messages, text, and tried to call Mary and the caseworker, and no response. So there might be a way that we as a immigration committee can try to take that up with Mary, because I know our intentions are simply to help.
Yes.
And what I have learned from Marilyn, I am going to try to directly intervene in this with Department of State. But we do need some information from this woman, and I haven't wanted to step all over KRM's toes, but I'm still working with a number of organizations in Kabul and in Afghanistan. And the first thing that we have to find out is if her husband and children are still alive. And that's quite tragic, but that's what my first step is to try to ascertain that. So, and Marilyn, you're the one that can best tell us. It seems as though she does have a phone, but Marilyn thinks that she has not been in phone contact with her husband. And so that leads me to believe that possibly he's not able to respond.
And I think we don't want to talk about individual cases in too much detail, but
Right.
I do think that this case really demonstrates what our community is going to encounter, I think, with every one of these Afghan families, and that's trauma. They have all experienced serious trauma, and it is pretty much controlling their life here at this point. The fact that we may not have in this community the mental health services that need to be available to low-income people is a real serious concern, and particularly with children. We just seem to have very few mental health services where children, immigrant children, can be served. So and of course, we need it badly for adults as well. So I think this is a community-wide effort. I will say on behalf of KRM, my understanding is each of their caseworkers at this time has about 70 clients. So they are definitely very, very busy, and it's very difficult for them to find the time to spend with people who need a great deal of help. Oh,
Well,
I see.
get my community involved, but I have to understand the story because I have to understand, is she in contact with them or not? That's what I'm trying to understand. So when I tell my people to visit her, because there is a language barrier, at least I need to understand how, I mean, I understand she's traumatized. I visited her. I saw her with you, Marilyn, but I'm just not understanding from her, is she talking to them on the phone? Because she did show me a video of her daughter. So I don't know, is she talking to them now or she's not? So Deborah, you're saying she's not?
And Nadia, I don't know that answer for sure.
Okay.
But that's where I would encourage you to stay in touch with Deborah, because Deborah definitely has the contacts that we can begin to help her. But I think the facts of that story will have to come out over a period of time.
Right. Nadia, why don't we work together on this? I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be wonderful.
Good, all right, yes.
I see lots of hands up. And
We have 3 more questions for Marilyn, and then we'll move on. We start with David, and then Councilwoman Jennifer, and then Bessel. David, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Marilyn. We've been working with the KRM as well, and we've had some success. We've met with them in person. We're working on, just because of, we need workers, and we have several Japanese companies that are ready to hire, but we're still having a hard time communicating and getting a hold of somebody. I do know that their director was just left to take another position, and so I don't know if the right contact person or what, that is of recently, but we've got involved somewhat because our church is taking on a couple of the families. Okay. But when we met with them, my question is, the 2 different refugees that are coming in, one of them gets financial support for an extended period of time, and then another group only gets like $1,000. So the problem is there's not the same financial.
David, and that depends on what status they have when they come in. Plus, it depends on whether they're sponsored or not. If they're sponsored is providing, I think it's up to $3,600 for rent for 3 months. But if they're not sponsored, they have to rely just on what Kentucky Refugee Ministry per capita support is. And that differs depending on their status. Sorry, that's my phone.
So are they, from my understanding, when they arrive, with their visas that they have, they're eligible for work?
David, some of them, many of them, the Afghans specifically, are not arriving with visas. They're arriving with an emergency pass, if you will, that's called a humanitarian parole. And so it has limited benefits, although there is a congressional proposal to expand that, and Marilyn can speak more to that. They actually don't have a visa status yet. Those who come with a special immigrant visa or other visas are in a different group, as Marilyn was saying. So if they're a humanitarian parole, there's one set of benefits, limited, or as I understand it, if it's the other visa classes, as Marilyn was saying, then they have greater benefits. Is that correct, Marilyn?
Yes, and one of our concerns is they need legal help, many of them, in applying for a work permit, or if they've already applied, getting that finished. And the legal office at KRM is closed for intake, new intake, because they lost one of their 3 attorneys. So we are also struggling with how much legal support these folks will have. However, They are coming in slowly. Those on humanitarian parole have to file for asylum, and that can happen anytime within a year. So, so we're trying to see if we can't be sure that the legal services that are available can be spread out over time.
We have several large companies that are ready and they have legal teams and things.
Terrific.
And part of it is we know with the language, but there's a lot of jobs that don't require the language. So for example, at Toyota, they've got the kit synchronizing where they're just there and they're looking at numbers and putting parts into a bin and then moving them on so they go to the line. So those are jobs that are ready to go. But then again, we're still having a hard time with the communication. I've sent Toyota, Hitachi, all of them, the contact information at KRM, but again, we're not getting any response, but they will also help with that. We're also looking at setting up English language classes as well for anybody, not just Japanese, of course, but we're ready to go to teach English conversation once or twice a week in Lexington.
Okay, Isabel, you and I are going to contact KRM directly and see if we can establish a stronger communication channel, right?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Okay.
Jennifer.
Yes, let's go to Councilwoman Jennifer.
Thank you. And thank you, Marilyn, and your whole group for working on all of this legal stuff. In regards to KRM, did Mary Cobb leave? Did I miss something?
Well, I would have the same question. David, did you mean Mary Cobb has left?
No, it was a gentleman. It was a man that was the.
Oh, it was Derek.
That must have been the Louisville.
Derek Feldman.
Derek Feldman went to a national organization. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's who our contact was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the director here in Lexington is still here.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and that's Mary. Okay, just checking. So in terms of immigration, you were talking about ICE can only go certain places and do certain things. With some of the issues that have come up in Lexington around ICE, I was wondering if you could just briefly go into a little more detail about where they're not allowed to go now.
Okay, the memo doesn't have an exhaustive list, but here are places they are not supposed to go to enforce immigration law. Schools and other places where children congregate, medical and mental health facilities, places of worship or religious study, community centers, places where funerals, weddings, rosaries, and other religious or civil ceremonies occur, places where there is an ongoing parade, demonstration, or rally. So those are the examples that they gave in the memo.
And you said they're also not allowed to, or they're not supposed to be going to jobs like restaurants and.
Their policy is that they will not conduct these wide worksite raids. Now, that doesn't mean they wouldn't go after an individual, but they're just not going to do the big raids that get all the publicity.
Okay, yeah, they're still, I'm sure, looking for specific individuals either at houses or other areas, and they're still going into our jail to look for people. Yes. So that still needs to be addressed. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sure. Basil.
Hello, I just have a few follow-ups to what Marilyn and David said about few contacts and services. For the mental health, I completely agree. It's such a need, especially for children. Fayette County Public Schools are pushing to increase mental health services, and we have a program now where services can be given inside the schools. And in the past, this wasn't allowed, but now the public school system can use their own interpreters to interpret during those mental health sessions. And so if we can coordinate with outside mental health providers, I think there are few limitations on which ones can provide services to students inside the schools, but the student can actually go to the counselor or the guidance office and they can sit there and do a session on Zoom, or if it's done through the district mental health professionals, then they can use the district's own interpreters with help with language access. So I can like ask on the district level and see if I can get like an exhaustive list or how like we can add providers to it. But that can be like a way. I mean, it will leave the children who are not in the public school system yet, but it would help the children's population who are. So I figured I'd mention that. And then 2 follow-ups to what David said for KRM, because I'm involved like with the like work with the Arabic families a little bit. For the jobs part, I'm not sure who your contact were, but I feel sometimes it's one of those things that the higher up you contact, sometimes the less you hear. Luella Pavi, I think there is their job, like the person who's in charge of connecting actual people with jobs. So I'm not sure if you'll like if you have tried contacting her or not, but I would recommend getting in touch with her. And the other thing about the EL classes, are there any, like the English classes, are there any efforts citywide to kind of coordinate those efforts? Because I know that Fife County Public Schools and BCTC are working on an initiative to start combined GED and EL classes. And they actually are ready to roll their EL classes, but they can't start because they don't even have an EL instructor. So like they're looking, and I guess like with the job market, they can't find anyone. And obviously there are some churches, BCTC and stuff like that. So are there like a focused effort where these different organizations are kind of coordinating that, oh, we'll do Monday, you do Tuesday, you do Wednesday. And there's a list where people who are interested can kind of make sure they have a place to go every day, or are we have different efforts that are kind of like conflicting together all the time?
If I may.
I'm saying, Basil, you're now in charge of coordinating ESL services in this community. I don't think it is. I don't think it's happening.
I mean, I'd be happy to if we can get kind of like I mean, I know the BCTC FCPS one. Now I know the one David mentioned, which I wasn't aware of before. I know BCTC had their own classes. There's the public library. I mean, I'd be happy to try and reach out to the people organizing them and try and like figure out at least how many we have in town and like which days and whatnot. So, you know, if families are interested, they have a place to go every day, which I mean, some of these things may be hard to coordinate, but at least we can try.
I have something there to add. When I just got here to the States, the first thing I did was to go to ESL classes in the BCTC. That was the first approach. There's 2 things that I understand of that there is a structure approach and a conversational approach. So it all depends on the level of comfort of the individual. If they are committed to go to a more structural part, I recommend to go to the BCTC. If they feel more towards the conversational and like touching the waters, you can find other places like the churches, like and they are free. Unfortunately, we don't have right now in the library, but we are working hard to get those services again due to the pandemic and the restriction of space. So it depends on the level of comfort. In my experience here at the library, there is a better reach for people that are in the farm working community with more less structured one. They will continue doing that path if they feel a little bit more less structure and less. You need to do your homework. You need to study harder to get that goal. So those are the 2 things that.
Okay, let's get one more question, one more comment from Isabel, and then move on to.
Just very quickly, that a lot of people, newcomers, have asked to have classes accessible to people that don't have transportation. And that's, a lot of people don't even have computers, of course, but they do have phones. And so Kentucky Refugee Ministries has a virtual citizenship class that is very popular. And I think that if we can work towards getting elementary level conversational or targeted English, David, if some of the Japanese companies are interested in targeted English, we had huge success when we did the driver's education with targeted English because adults are so hungry to learn specific topics, right? And not get into grammar and not get into issues that just delay learning. So I'm willing to work with anyone. I'm approaching BCTS, Kentucky Refugee Ministries, the public schools, the libraries, everybody. This is really, really seriously important. So anybody that can help with that effort, please come on.
Okay, thank you, Isabel. Adrian, can you give us a brief report?
Yes, good morning, everybody. I have a brief report. One of the things that I just wanted to bring up was there is a Title VI training today for anybody who has federal funding. And that was brought up during the ARPA funding session a few weeks ago or week before last, which was brought up during our MIAAC outreach subcommittee meeting, or committee meeting. For a lot of the folks on this commission and those visiting today, if you don't know, the federal government has sent American Rescue funding for projects to impact those who were most hard hit by COVID. And we wanted to make sure that we disseminate this information to our international community, but we also wanted to make sure that all the programs that are funded adhere to Title VI, and because we've already had a lot of issues with our international community not receiving information in their language, which segues into the main portion of my report today, which is the Ambassador Subcommittee. As you know, we have been working on and drafting a program all year long for ambassadors, for those that we would like to join our work that can't be commissioners because we have limited space on the commission. And we also had to take it to a higher level from a continental perspective when it comes to being represented on the commission. But we have already seen when that comes to fruition on the ground inside the city, that with the over 150, 180 dialects, the representation, the disproportionate amount of folks being represented in the Latino community by folks that don't necessarily even speak the same language. And so we need to expand our outreach. And it seemed like it was a perfect outgrowth of the outreach committee to make the ambassador program or the ambassador initiative a true subcommittee of the outreach program. And so our last committee meeting, that was the majority of the discussion and about how we would flesh that out. And through the executive committee meeting last Friday, we have voted to bring it forth to the full body for a vote. And so I would ask that somebody would make a motion, or I guess, can I make the motion? It would be appropriate for me to make this motion, Isabel, to create the ambassador subcommittee of the outreach committee.
I think it's appropriate to make that motion.
If it needs a second, a second.
I could second it, Deborah.
Okay. Any discussions on the motion to make the ambassador program a subcommittee? Or any comments before we go to the vote?
And I will ask, I know I just did a brief overview, but I'm assuming that everybody here on the call looks like you've been engaged this year and you know about the ambassador program. But I will say again, if you don't have this, if you don't have the draft, if you don't have the final draft or the presentation that Dr. Maskey made a few months ago, I can send that to you. So you put that in the chat or let myself or Isabel know, and we'll send it to you.
Adrian, one of the things that you had mentioned in the executive committee meeting is that it may need a chair, its own chair.
Yes, thank you. So we want to ensure that eventually the ambassadors, because they won't be on the commission, that they have their own leadership. And I don't want to chair a subcommittee of the outreach committee. So ideally, eventually, we would have an ambassador that is appointed to that subcommittee to chair that subcommittee. But until we get to that point, we would ask that a commissioner would join the outreach committee to chair the ambassador subcommittee. So I guess I will add that, or actually, I think it would be most appropriate to leave that as a separate motion, or pass the motion first, Dr. Kalala. Take any questions, and then we could, I guess, have the discussion on commissioners.
Adrian, we've approached Dr. Maskey's recommendation for Asia to replace her was Professor Wong, and I think he would be excellent as that chair if he could come in. He's already made an application. I don't know the status of it, whether the mayor has approved it or whether it's at council yet, but if it gets approved, he would be someone that has experience leading in chairing organizations, and he's I think that it would be nice to have a commissioner, despite the fact that he would be so very new. He's very experienced.
Are there any other comments or discussions before we move to vote on the motion on the floor? Okay, so let's move to vote. The motion is to make the ambassador program a subcommittee of the outreach committee. So those in favor of making the ambassador program a subcommittee of the outreach committees, just say aye.
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 And those opposed?
Aye.
Well, the motion carries. So the motion is voted on. Okay. The next item on the agenda yes. There are two committees, the Emergency and Health Committee and also the International Business Committee, that are still struggling in terms of memberships. So I don't know how many people will be willing to put their name to any of those two committees. They have been somehow lacking members. Dr. Toshan?
Yes.
Yeah, can you, can you chair this committee?
I'd be happy to. I was waiting. I know the executive committee were discussing the future of the committee, but yes, I'm hoping that Mr. Aqua would still join us. He did such a great job chairing that committee. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the numbers. But yeah, I'd be happy to chair it. I have been in contact with a couple of people about possibly joining, but we were waiting to make sure that the committee will remain established.
Yeah, what I was asking, can you co-chair it for Innocent?
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, okay.
I just to put in my 2 cents worth, working with the Department of Emergency Management as the multicultural liaison, this pandemic is not over, and this is part of the I think the core of our focus for the past 2 years. And this committee, I think, is one of the most important for the situation. And so with that co-chairing situation, I know that Maria, I don't want to speak for you, but there are other individuals who have expressed interest in this. Basically, it's communicating with the health department. So we've had health department make presentations and also be available to us very, very closely. So I think from my standpoint, it is one of the most important committees.
I completely agree, Isabel. Yes.
Me too. And I have been in contact with one of the board members of the health department, and I think he may be interested in joining as well. So like now knowing that the committee will remain established, I'll get in touch again and hopefully I can get him on board. And that way, like that would help a bridge.
I'm actually on the board of health, and I'm happy to help out. So please let me know, and absolutely. I can be in on those meetings. And I work closely with Kevin and Dr. Humbasa.
Can I say something, Dr. Kalala?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what I had requested was that if we could get new leadership for the committee, I would be happy to just stay on as a member of the committee. And I thought we could try new leadership because I know how important this committee is, and because it didn't work quite well when I chaired it with the other co-chair that maybe dropped off somehow. That's why I made that request. And if we do that, then with Dr. Tuchan, I know he can do a very good job. We could get some other person to co-chair with Dr. Tuchan. I think I'll move more for that.
Are you not interested in chairing the committee anymore?
Yeah, I'm requesting that we have someone else to co-chair, to chair the program and co-chair with Dr. Tuchan.
Okay. Anything else on the on this important committee? Anything else?
I don't know. I thought if it's all right to go on now and request if anybody would indicate interest to co-chair that committee with Dr. Tuchan.
Please, if you are interested in co-chairing the committee of Dr. Tuchan, just send me an email and then we'll move from there. Okay. The other committee is the International Business Committee. I see David is here today. This committee has been somehow dormant for a while. It is an important committee too. Kaiser had some good ideas about reviving this committee. I don't know if, Kaiser, can you bring your idea again to the whole commission?
So Mr. David is also there and he's already chairing. And last time also in one of the meeting, we had a talk and we can bring the committee again alive, I think under the chairmanship of Mr. David. And there were 3 more commissioner members who have shown interest to join. And this committee can also work towards developing employment opportunities for all the unemployed as well as the refugees who are coming, and we can definitely create a bridge between them and the other small businesses and farms over here. And there are a lot of opportunities that can be done through this committee.
I agree to all of that. I kind of have the recommendation as we talked before. Logistically, my schedule's so busy that, if there's somebody that would be interested in a co-chair or a something to help with the logistics of the committee, that would be helpful. As in the work aspects of doing the committee work, that's kind of what my job is doing now. So I'm doing a lot of those things and having those conversations and having those meetings. I've just not been able to logistically put together committee meetings and to help delegate some of that responsibility. If there is someone that could help me do that, I think that would make things a lot easier to get the committee active again.
But you will still be available to participate in the meetings if somebody else does it. David?
Oh, yeah. But being able, yeah, absolutely. And I don't have a problem with if somebody else wants to chair and I just do the work.
Mr. Mahawala and David, Global X and staff, but I in particular offer our support for scheduling, for doing Zoom meetings, for helping out in any way we can. This is one of the most, again, important areas where I receive information from the public that there's a lot of gaps in service to our community. And it's no one's fault. It's just that we don't have the infrastructure to support our small business and our multilingual communities yet. And so building that infrastructure is incredibly important. A lot of our small business owners don't even know about Commerce Lexington, nor can they afford their fees. And so a lot of the relevant information that goes out during this pandemic for economic support is just not reaching. And I'm hoping that we can also tie in other committees, for instance, the Outreach Committee, the Ambassadors Committee, subcommittees, to help relay this important information to our international small and medium-sized businesses that don't have the funds or the language to be able to be informed as easily as the larger companies. Also, Commissioner Torelli, you're in business, and so I'm asking if you would be interested in helping with this committee.
I can try this, and I can add on this. My more special business is business between United States and Italy or Europe. So, especially in this time, also for business international is very difficult. And also our business has a bad impact about that. So we're working also with our government in Italy to try to give some information to the international company how work better with the new procedure. There's a lot of paper we have to do for move our technician moving from Europe and United States and go back. So if there is any company need some help, because I work also with the Italian consul, so if there is some company need help, we can also suggest the best way to work on this paper to keep going people moving from Europe and United States. A lot of things is changing, and every week the rules changing. So anything we can do to give some suggestion for the company, like even company like Toyota or company, this also a small company has to work and traveling internationally. So anything we can do, we can help on that, give some suggestion.
And I think you have another volunteer in the chat box too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that. I wrote it down.
Okay, Dr. Kalala, I would like to say something. Just to what Mr. David said, like, I'm more than happy to offer all type of support in the larger interest of this committee. And if you want my contribution as a co-chair, so that we can organize all the meetings and the activities of the committee, I'm more than happy to offer the best support that I can.
Yeah.
Terrific. Good.
That would be amazing. And I'll even bribe you if you are a bourbon fan. We're sitting here in my office, and you can have what you want. So,
Yeah. So I don't. I'm a little different. I don't take alcohol at all. So, but we'll definitely enjoy a coffee or a water. I'm okay with anything. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
And I will
you're
come and have
playing
the outreach
favorites.
committee meetings with you at your office.
I also, David, in the past, we've invited participation from the Kentucky World Trade Center representative here in Lexington. They have a lot of the kind of information for international trade that Fabrizio Torelli is concerned with. And we have, perhaps we could invite Small Business Administration representatives and others to join this committee as well.
What I'd like to do, what ideally, because this is such a huge undertaking and there's so many branches to it, is maybe it's just the fact that we sit down as a committee and kind of map out, and then we have to make decisions on what is it that we can actually focus resources on. You know, there's a lot, you know, we've talked about the refugees, works, language programs, all of those things are tied in together, you know, and I'm one that's just like, you know, I'm just doing it. You know, I'm moving forward. And so I think it would be helpful to be able to include a larger conversation part of it to do it. So
let's call a Zoom meeting whenever convenient, and we invite all other members who are interested, and let's start rolling the ball.
I have a question for those that are interested. Please shout out right now while I've got you all. What days and times are convenient for meetings for this committee?
Friday morning, this 11 is good. So if convenient, then we can work it out. We can keep the same time.
Not Friday, though. Is Monday possible?
what time again? I'm sorry. Did you say, Dr.?
Yes, Mondays maybe at 11, because Friday we have division meetings, you know, at school, a lot of them. So even today we have one at 12:30.
Yeah, I can do Mondays at 11.
So which Monday are we talking? The immediate this coming Monday or the week after?
Whichever you choose, that's fine.
So can we move to the Monday after the Thanksgiving, that is after that week, if possible?
Sure.
Perfect. So let's finalize on that, the first Monday after. Yep.
On December 6th.
I will be in Europe helping my mom out over there who's handicapped, so I won't be here for 4 to 6 weeks.
Are you talking about Monday, 29?
The 29th of December?
No.
November.
I'm not going to be here.
Oh.
If everybody who is interested in participating in the International Business and Workforce Development Committee would send me just a quick note so that we can have you on the list, and we'll send out a Zoom meeting for Monday the 29th.
Or raise your hand now.
Yeah.
Your like raise hand on your thing.
Yeah. So that.
Okay, so I have Commissioner Torelli, Carpenter, Mahawala, and Otieno so far.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments on the International Business Committee? Now, we also have an opening, I mean, not to fill, we need a co-chair for the commission. Since Diana Quinn left, the commission the commission needs a co-chair. Anyone interested in co-chairing the commission with me?
Could you maybe mention what the role of the co-chair would be so that everyone knows what their responsibilities would be?
In the pay.
It is to oversee the activities of the whole commission, make sure that committees do their work properly and submit their reports, and also set up the quarterly meetings of both the executive committee and the whole commission. Isabel, have I left anything from what I just said?
No, it's really up to the co-chairs to expand or limit, but basically that's it. They are overseeing all commission business.
Yeah.
Does the co-chair also represent the commission at any particular forums or facilitate the meetings as well? Just trying to get a sense of the responsibilities.
Yes, the co-chair facilitates meetings.
In fact, I think in the recent past, Dr. Kalala, you and Diana were the main liaisons with the mayor's office and the city council. And so all communications went through you as well.
That's correct.
We could do nominations, or I'm not sure.
Okay.
I believe in our executive committee meeting, Mr. Mawala indicated interest, and so I would like to nominate him if nobody else is going to nominate.
I would like to nominate Kaiser too. I know that I have not.
And let me apologize. Is it Dr. Mahawala?
No, it's just Mahawala. It's Kezar Mahawala.
I thought it was doctor. It might as well be doctor.
Maybe in the process. I'll be more than happy, but I think the Commissioner Jennifer also showed interest, and she is also more than welcome, and it will be great to have her.
You know, I'm sorry, Councilmember Reynolds, I wasn't sure if you were interested, and I wasn't sure, can a council member chair? But if so, that would actually be a good thing, I think, you know, consider as
that was the question I had too.
As we were saying.
I didn't mean to necessarily say, I mean, I am willing to do it, but I didn't mean to necessarily say that I was, and I'd be happy to have someone from the international community be a co-chair. But if not, I'm willing to do it. I don't know if we're allowed to or not. I think so. In other commissions, council members are chairs, but I don't know how it works here. So
I don't know either, but it would be great to have you as a co-chair.
Can I make a nomination, Dr. Kalala?
Yes.
No, when we did elections, Dr. Brody was a very close runner-up. If it's all right with her, can I nominate Dr. Brody?
Okay, Dr. Brody.
Today is the last day of the election for the worldwide president of Teachers of English as a Second Language, and I would be running 15,000 members worldwide. If I were to be elected, I could not do both. but I only know on Monday what the outcome is. If I were not to be elected, I would be glad to serve. If I am elected, I cannot serve. So if you want to find somebody today, I cannot be available.
Dr. Brody, remind me, did you co-chair at one point?
6 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Mhm. But like I said, if you want to find somebody today, I cannot be available. Find somebody today to share the responsibility and have some leadership consistency moving forward.
I like the idea of Jennifer, but I am trying to think about our bylaws, if there's anything in there that prohibits a council member. I suspect not.
There is nothing in the bylaws, and I can double check with Melissa, but I'm fairly positive that there is nothing in our bylaws.
Thanks, Isabel.
Restricting.
So in this case, do we need to proceed to a vote on people who are nominated?
Well, could I suggest something? Since Kezar has offered to co-chair the International Business and Workforce Development Organization, that's going to take a good bit of effort in the near future. Could we sort of, if Jennifer's willing to co-chair the commission and he co-chairs that committee, would that work? Would that be a good way to use their skills?
I support that, Marilyn.
I support that too. I believe so.
Yeah, even I also agree. It will be it's a good proposition.
Okay, because I think your work's going to be cut out for you, Kezar. I think you're going to have a lot of work coming up. So would it be appropriate to make a motion to elect, well, I think you've already resolved.
I guess, should I withdraw my nomination maybe? And then we
there you go. Maybe
make a motion to nominate both of them with no opposition, then we could vote on it.
Yeah.
So I withdraw my nomination of Kezar as commission co-chair. And I will go ahead and make the motion that we nominate Councilmember Reynolds as co-chair of the commission and Mr. Mahuala to be to be co-chair of the International Business Committee.
Can I hear you second?
Marilyn, I second.
Any discussions or comments on the nomination of Councilwoman Jennifer as a co-chair and Kezar as the chair, as a member of the International co-chair of International Business Committee?
You need a second for that?
I think Marilyn did.
I did.
Yeah, Marilyn did already. I was just asking if there were any discussions or comments on that before we pass to the vote. Okay. In that case, all in favor of the Councilwoman Jennifer to be the co-chair of the commission and Kezar to be the co-chair of the International Business Committee, just say yes. I'm in favor.
Yes.
Yes.
And those opposed, okay.
Yes.
The motion carries. We have a co-chair. Councilwoman, welcome to the club.
Thank you very much. I was not expecting that, but thank you. I look forward to working with all of you.
You will do a great job, Dave.
That's great. I'm pleased that at least things will be moving forward pretty well now.
Thank you.
With your experience and everything, we'll be doing well. Okay, that business is done. I was also going to ask one of the council member present if they can briefly talk about ARPA funding.
I can do that. Do you have specific areas that you want me to talk about?
Well, we are an international commission, so we want to see how it can affect international businesses, small international businesses here in Lexington.
Well, I will say, let's see. I don't know how much you all have been following the process, so I'll give like just a really quick overview of what we've been doing. Similar to what we do with our regular budget process, we broke into subgroups, and the project ideas that we had gotten from the community were all divided up based on topics of subgroups. So we had an infrastructure group, a economic growth group, an equity services group, a parks and rec group. There was one more that I'm blanking on. Jennifer, pop in if you think of which one I'm missing. But we broke the topics, and then the council members were assigned to a small group to evaluate those projects, and then brought forth recommendations a few weeks ago from those subgroups. So now we're in the process of working through all of those recommendations and voting them forward or not. Currently, when you talk about business, we did have a proposal that comes through Commerce Lexington, or is associated with Commerce Lexington, along with some other community partners. That is a minority business accelerator program. So that might be something that would meet the purposes that you are talking about. We also had some funding that we have secured, $10 million for our affordable housing fund. We put $15 million towards premium pay for people who worked within government that had direct exposure to COVID. Like think about frontline workers like EMTs or waste management workers. We put $1 million towards a kind of tourism industry relief funds. And then we have funded some other programs that have come through government, like our summer youth jobs program, I think was in there, and some money going towards our One Lexington program. So that's where we are at this point. We have some more meetings coming up. I think the next one is November 30th. And we're just going to continue kind of working through the projects that were submitted by the community. I'm happy to take questions if anybody has them.
Yes, Bezo.
It's more of a comment than a question. Like, since we're the Mayor's International Affairs Advisory Commission, isn't it part of our role to advise on that as well? Maybe through like the Business Development Committee or like the commission at large. I feel that part of our process should be kind of reviewing those and seeing which project benefit international communities and if that's being taken into considerations or not.
I will say we have as council members, because it's with the council members to make these decisions at this point, we have gotten emails that have come from other groups like boards and commissions to advocate for particular projects or funding put towards particular things. So it isn't without the scope of this commission. It is within the scope of this commission that to do that kind of a process, to pick something that you want to get behind and then communicate that to the council.
Exactly, because I feel we're so fortunate with having you and Councilmember Reynolds on our committee, and you're always our like strongest and fiercest advocate for that. But like you said, as a committee, I feel it is within the scope of
I will say one of the programs that would apply to some of the mission of this group that Councilmember Reynolds and I both talked about and have advocated for is some funding that to go towards Radio Lex for public health information that has been communicated in multiple languages. So that is one of the things that we're working on. I think us in particular are advocating for that.
So could I ask, would it be appropriate for us to take action with respect to language accessibility in all of this work, because I do think the commission overall would want to be sure that all of the opportunities that are presented by the council would be, there would be enough access, language access, that our immigrant communities could participate and benefit from.
Yeah, and I think there is, let me make one point, Councilmember Reynolds, and then I will turn it over. One of the things about these funds is there are restrictions on how we use them. There are very clear guidelines for what qualifies and what doesn't. So we have to be sure that we're following along with that. I'm not saying that language access wouldn't fall under the strict guidelines. However, we do have some funds that go under what's called revenue replacement that come directly to government based on the revenues that we might have lost during the pandemic. And those funds are much more flexible. So that might apply more closely to what you're talking about, Marilyn, that some of those funds might be able to be secured for language access work. And I think there have been some other proposals related to language access. I think Councilmember Reynolds has looked at one.
So when I thought about, I think that the language access is really important. And so I put it in committee to do a whole overview of all of language access across government. So I'm going to be working with different divisions over the next few months on that. We tried to get it started back about 2 months ago, but ARPA kind of overran everything. I thought about putting some sort of specific proposal into ARPA in terms of getting more funding for language access, but it just didn't seem like it fit quite right. And I think that our government should be doing this no matter what, you know, with or without ARPA money. And so that's something that that I'm working on, you know, like I said, over the next few months. And I hope that that will kind of apply to any new programs or anything that that gets passed. So I'll be working.
And I should say really, can I say really quickly, just because I didn't give this background at the very beginning, ARPA stands for American Rescue Plan Act. So these are the relief funds that $120 million that we're getting from the federal government to offset the impacts of the pandemic. So just kind of a brief overview for those who might not know what the acronym means. Go ahead, Isabel.
I just full disclosure, I'm wearing a lot of hats here, and I'm the Title VI officer for LFUCG, and so all the plan, the complaints, I report to the CAO directly on Title VI. So when the ARPA funds first came up, the law department, and I work with Evan Thompson on this all the time. When this came up, Title VI is mandated by the ARPA Act, and it's right there in front. What that means is that language assistance is a requirement of all the funding, and so there is no there is no question that we have to provide language assistance to all of the programming that comes through the federal funding generally, but specifically in the ARPA Act, it says that it is subject to Title VI, which is requires timely language assistance at no cost to the limited English proficient. And that is one of the reasons why the law department and I have been very closely reviewing all of the recommendations and trying to figure out how are we going to at least offer. The mandate is a reasonable standard. And so we cannot provide language assistance to 206 different language groups. We can provide it to the largest. and particularly with the expense coming out of the funds. It really is a federal mandate. It's also a state mandate. The KRS has its own Title VI requirements. And just for everyone's information, we get audited yearly on our language assistant plan. And so it is uppermost in, I spend like sometimes 75% of my time on providing language assistance. And right now, after this meeting, I'm providing Title VI training to our HUD recipients, subrecipients. So if there's anything that I can assist with in terms of what is a reasonable thing to do, council members, please call on us. This is what we're here for, to provide you with any assistance that you may require, because this is huge, but it also has a reasonable standard.
So could I ask a question in that respect then? If any of the projects, and I really appreciate the two council members' support for this, but if any of those projects are funded with ARPA funds, then is there money included in that grant to assure reasonable language access?
That's not written into the grants, but as Isabel said, it's going to be a requirement that they have reasonable. It will be part of it. And I think our responsibility is making sure, all of our collective responsibility is making sure that that's happening, that interpreting and translating and all of those things are being provided.
And
I
just
think
for
that is
those of
something
you,
that, as we're moving projects forward, all of these restrictions and reporting things that have to happen, the mayor's administration is working on that. Like Isabel is talking about, working with the CAO Hamilton, like they have a better sense of what goes on the backside of what happens with these projects and what the requirements are based on the federal regulations. So we kind of lean on them a little bit to make sure that those things are upheld.
Just so that everybody understands, our new commissioners, Title VI language assistance requirement, it comes from the 1964 Civil Rights Act that says we cannot discriminate. If we receive federal funding, we cannot discriminate for race, color, or national origin. And national origin basically requires that we treat the non-English speakers like we treat everybody else. And so we need to open up access to our programming or to our information. And so that's basically the overall standard.
Okay. Any other comments on the ARPA program or ARPA discussion? Okay, Isabel, before I ask you to give us a brief report on Global X, I would like just to mention that the Commission still plans to do a training for new commissioners. And Diana Quinn is still available to help us in doing the training. So I just want to make that everybody, now that we have a new co-chair, I will contact Councilwoman Jennifer, and then we'll decide when and how we'll conduct the training. But the training is still on. So Isabel, can you, do you have anything to say about Global X before we go?
With respect to what we're doing at Global X, I wanted to introduce our new administrative senior specialist, Trina Brown. Trina will be the secretary for the MIAAC, so she will be part of the executive committee. We are working right now still with all of our HUD recipients and other federally funded recipients to create a list of resources and agencies that do have language assistance for our limited English speakers. And so that list, again, I want to explain, it's not to exclude agencies that don't have it. It's only to facilitate when we make referrals that we don't send people to agencies that can't even communicate with them, because that's a waste of time for the agencies and it's a waste of time for our public that is learning English. And so that list will be made available to 311 and to our social services and to all of our sister organizations when they need to refer a non-English speaker to someone, to an agency for assistance. And then with respect to housing assistance, we have LFUCG has transferred all of the funding, and please, council members, correct me if I'm wrong, to Community Action Council. And Community Action Council has extensive experience with the international population. They have language assistance, they have bilingual employees, and so I'm thrilled, and we're still helping wherever we are asked to help with language assistance. That is it for me.
Okay. Well, the next item on the agenda is to talk about 2022 quarterly meetings. Yes.
I was saying, yeah, the 2022 quarterly meetings, we kind of decided to structure it the way it's been. So we want to know if that worked for everyone or not. The dates that we put here for February the 18th for the full commission, May the 20th, August the 19th, and November the 18th.
Are those the quarterly meetings? Can you repeat that, please?
Quarterly meetings for the full MIAAC commission. February the 18th, May the 20th, August the 19th, and November the 18th.
Excuse me, Commissioner Otieno had mentioned that Fridays was difficult for you. These are all Fridays.
Friday is okay if we start early because our division meetings begin at 12:30. I'm actually just about to join my division meeting. So if we start at 10, it's possible that we could finish this in time for me to, especially when we start meeting face to face. I would have to leave at the center and run to BCTC. So if possible, and I'm not dictating anything to everyone, it's only one person. And I think Kalala, you also have meetings on Fridays at 12:30, unless you stopped attending. Anyhow, it would be nice to do a little
I have already put it in my chair that I won't be able to attend.
That's all
Why
right.
don't we use the check? Why don't we use the checkbox and each commissioner write in there if it's okay with them or not? Then we can take the pulse.
I do have a question. If I remember right, part of the reason that we had meetings 11 to 1, besides it working with people, but it was also back in the days when we would actually share lunch together when we were in person.
That's true.
All right, that's good. We leave it at 11 for that reason.
Well, are we going to be meeting in person, do we think, soon?
I think for some of us, it's all going to depend, because like if we switch the time, it will be challenging for me to attend, but I don't want to make it challenging for other people. So maybe we should do a poll about when, like one of the Google polls that really says how many people can be at what time, so that the majority of people can attend. I'm just concerned about changing around too much, but I don't want to not include you at all. So I don't know what the best answer is, but I think it gets complicated when we have a big commission and we start changing times.
Yeah.
Let's keep it at 11. Let's keep it at 11. No need for a poll. Let's just keep it at 11.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Dr. Otieno, thank you. Okay, I don't think that I have missed anything on the agenda. If I have, somebody notice it, can they?
Is the executive committee dates, are they okay? It's a week before.
Yeah, they're okay too. I mean, for me, they're okay. I don't know about other people.
They're okay.
Tina, could you give us those dates again for the full commission meetings, please?
Yes, for the full
Thanks.
commission, it's February the 18th, May the 20th, August the 19th, and November the 18th.
Thank you.
Would you like the executive ones too or not?
Sure.
Okay. The executive committee will meet on February the 11th, May the 13th, August the 12th, and November the 10th.
November the 10th is, I believe, a Thursday because that Friday is Vets Day. You want to change it to the following week for Friday?
No, because that's the commission meeting.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Or before, the Friday before.
Thursday's okay, I think.
Yeah, Thursday is okay.
Marilyn, I have one quick question before you go. When you said Lexington is getting 125 Afghans and we have 5 families, so it's 125 people or 125 families?
You just asked so many questions, Nadia. I'm not positive, but I think it's people. I think
it is
125 people.
It is, Marilyn. It is.
Okay, because I thought Lexington was going to get more, because I know Lexington, Louisville, and Bowling Green are getting, and I thought we were going to get more than 125. Okay,
well,
so 125 people.
We might.
It may change.
We might get more, but that's
it may change.
Yes, it could change.
Okay.
Could I make a request before we break up? Isabel, could we get a copy now of all the commission members and their contact information and when their terms expire?
Yes.
So that we could start next year with a full list of that. Thank you.
Okay, any announcements or other businesses? I mean, we'll be finishing on time, long before time.
Yes. Good.
So any new announcements or businesses?
Well, yeah, so I'll ask Isabel, do we think we'll be able to get the Ambassador Subcommittee launched and get a press conference with the appointments before the end of the year?
May I check with Melissa in the mayor's office to see if we're getting some new people soon? Because I feel that would be very helpful because the specific individuals that are coming through the pipeline have expressed interest in the program. And if we get them on board, I'm not quite sure, I don't have it in my head as to when council meets to approve or when the mayor's office will put them in. So I can't promise that we can do it before Christmas, but we will try.
And so just for everybody else's knowledge, we want to have a press conference and make it kind of a recruiting event so that folks know that, you know, we need people to join the Ambassador Subcommittee. And if there's already an interest, or if they feel like that their community is or underrepresented or underserved, that this is an avenue for them. And again, to create that two-way communication, and really, I think it'll help with the Title VI conversation as well. So, but so stay tuned. It's nothing to announce yet, But once we do have that, I appreciate everybody, if you can, if the full commission can be there, I think it would be a powerful statement.
Okay, Bessel.
Just to piggyback on Adrian's recruitment efforts for the committee, for the Community Emergency Public Health Committee, a plea for everyone to, since we clearly still need members, to ask around, see if there are any interested parties. I will do the same. And once we hopefully have some, what's the process for that? Do I just email you, Dr. Kalala and Council Member Reynolds, to let you know, or how does that work?
Yes, please, why don't you, please go ahead and do that.
And then Dr. Kalala, you and I need to get on the same page.
Yes, we need to.
You need to catch me up.
No problem, we'll do that. I'll do that.
And just one confirmation from my side, just trying to reconfirm with Mr. David and Ms. Isabel. We are meeting on 29th, Monday morning, 11 o'clock for the International Committee, and all other members who are interested to join along with them. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or not? If not, then I will ask somebody to make a motion to adjourn.
I so move. Marilyn.
I second it, Deborah.
Okay, the meeting is
Bye.
adjourned. You guys have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye. Thank
you.
you.
Everyone.
Blessed Thanksgiving to
Happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Lots of thanks.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Again.